I'd like to welcome you all to Coffee with Kendall. I'm Kendall Mead, and today we are spotlighting an award-winning company voted best in industry this year for their oceans, their expeditions, and their rivers by Travel and Leisure. So you definitely cannot go wrong with this company. We've had hundreds of people over the years who have traveled with this great company, which is Viking Cruises. And I could go on and on. They have a whole list of the accolades they've received over the last several years for their river, their ocean, their fabulous expedition. And so today we have invited Viking Cruises, Eric Molina, to speak with all of us about all things Viking Cruises. So without further ado, I'm going to turn everything over to Eric, our Viking expert.
Kendall alluded to it nicely as far as small ship experience is extremely popular. Probably one of the only things hotter than this great state of Texas. So experiences entirely with Viking. That's all we do. We are celebrating our 27th year anniversary this year. And can't be more pleased to announce that we now sail on all 7 continents, over 85 countries, just over 500 ports of call. We are on 5 oceans, over 20 rivers, and all 5 Great Lakes. If that's something of interest with our expedition product, we have some stay to close or closer to home departures is what we like to call it. So as well with ocean and also sailing on the river here with the Mississippi River, right? So everything from New Orleans up to St. Paul and vice versa. So do have some closer to home options, and I think some may think we're just over the water, or you need to take a flight that's 8 hours plus or more. Not necessarily the case. You know, it's not the case anymore. We have over 30 itineraries that start or end in North America with regard to ocean cruising, expedition, and now river here closer to home. And that's kind of the culmination with Viking. You know, the ability to scale to become your largest small ship provider in the world is nice shot here outside of Amsterdam. Last fall, you see our new ocean ship, our new expedition ship, the Viking Polaris, and then one of our new river ships. So, you know, it's the ability to explore the world in comfort, give you the ability to have that same Viking standard experience, whether you're sailing on the Rhine River, on the Danube, in the Inside Passage on one of my ocean vessels in Alaska, maybe in the Mediterranean or in the Baltic, or even, you know, an ocean far as away as Australia, New Zealand itinerary. So you do have a lot of choices, and we want to really extend that opportunity to you. It's all about less time getting there and more time spent within the destination with Viking. So we do definitely offer carefully curated itineraries for discerning travelers like yourselves. We want to bring you right into the heart of the destination and maximize your time within that port of call, within that local city, town, village, or area that we're visiting with regard to ocean, river, or expedition. So expedition is a little bit different from a standpoint of sometimes the itinerary is not, I would say, set in stone from an example of what you may be used to. For those of you that have sailed with me on ocean and river, there's definitely a lot more flexibility that comes into expedition. It's the idea of exploration, and weather and wildlife do play a huge role in that as far as schedule and what we're looking to execute. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But you know, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. We are still catering to folks that are active 50-plus-year-olds, with the majority of our folks in their early to mid 60s. I mention this because we don't cater to anyone under the age of 18. So we are 18 and over only. There's no casinos on board. There's no art auctions. There's no photographers. There's nothing like anything like that on board. You know, you have your resident historians, your onboard lectures, your hands-on demonstrations, and this is kind of this is not kind of this is the case across the aboard here with all 3 venues of products with Viking, and I think it makes for an easy transition for those of you that maybe sailed with me in the past on a river cruise, you can kind of expect that same type of not only service but also experience and environment when you come over to ocean or you come over to expedition. So, very quickly here, I know I wanted to highlight some of the more popular itineraries. You're in great hands with Brandt Travel. They do an uh, exceptional job as far as putting together group dates on our most popular itineraries. And they do that very early and often on the upcoming sales season. So, just to give you an idea, folks, we do have very limited space left for what's left of 2024. We are already selling very well into 25 as well as 2026. And I think before you know it, we'll have some core products out already for 2027. So, going back to what Brandt Travel does is, they certainly get some of the most ideal times to be in these destinations when they put out dates, and they also have some of the best price point that we're going to offer, and it's always combinable with what we're offering with Viking through the groups department and also individual sales. So, Grand European Tour, one of my most popular river cruise itineraries. Your typical included tour and excursion on a daily basis with Viking is usually in the morning. After breakfast, that'll take you to about noon 30, and then you have the ability to come back to the vessel for lunch, or you can stay within the port of call within the destination, and then that'll take you into your afternoon of free time. So, on most itineraries, you do have something planned for you on a daily basis, and then you have your fair share amount of free time in the afternoon. Now, that's going to vary with, of course, itinerary to itinerary, but for the most part, you get the gist of what that looks like with regard to tours and excursions. With Viking, we try to give you some highlights and kind of fit them in your local life, working world, and privileged access experiences. Many of those experiences will have a optional cost in the afternoon, but we do give you something included to give you your basis and your well-rounded highlights of the city, village, or town that we're exploring. So, again, just gives you an idea of what that looks like from day to day. Again, on this itinerary, you do have the overnights in Amsterdam, in Vienna, as well as in Budapest. So, whether it's going in either direction, so that kind of gives you an idea of what we are set out to do at Viking. Especially with river cruising, it really feels more of like a hotel experience as opposed to, say, even some of these ocean cruise experiences that you may be used to when you sail with 3, 4, 5, 6,000 of your closest friends. So, river cruising is very much you're docking a stone's throw away from city centers, very walkable, manageable, even for our folks that need a maybe more leisure type pace where it's a gentle walkers program. And even for you folks that are active trekkers and want something a little bit longer duration and even utilize public transportation, you have all of those kind of choices and offerings built in, some included, and very many for just a nominal optional excursion fee. So, this is what the map looks like for the Grand European Tour. Just wanted to kind of spend some additional time on this first itinerary just to kind of give you the lay of the land of where the majority of river cruising is concentrated here in Europe, and how we do it and how we kind of break it down to some 8 day, 7 night offerings that I know are appealing to folks. So, did a ton of market research recently. If folks are willing to take a flight that's 8 hours plus, no time less than 9 or 10 days. So I think the sweet spot was about 9 nights, if I remember the research correctly. So if you're willing to take a flight that's 8 hours plus, you're looking at an 8 day, 7 night river cruise, and then maybe doing some sort of extension pre or post, whether with the romantic Danube, it's going to be Munich or Nuremberg or possibly Prague in the Czech Republic. And then we also spend additional time in Budapest pre or post. So this is our 8 day, 7 night traditional Danube river cruise experience where we sail from Regensburg to Budapest, and we go in the opposite direction as well from Budapest to Regensburg. And we have, again, sister ships sailing in opposite directions. So if you are embarking on a Saturday in Regensburg, you have a sister ship that's tagged in Budapest sailing in the opposite direction. So this is your again, very quaint quaint part of Germany into Passau, through the Wachau Valley, iconic cities like Vienna, the Pearl of the Danube there into Budapest, really the tale of two cities. You get to see both sides of the city with regard to Budapest. We dock on the Pest side, typically not too far from the chain bridge, although it is going under a little bit of construction, should be completed by later this year, early next. And but we still are docking on the Pest side. But our tour does take you into Buda to be able to have that comprehensive site visit of both sides of the city. Really, it's really iconic the way the Danube separates both old world and new world very drastically. I think one of the other areas to do that would be like Turkey, where you have Europe on one side and Asia on the other, with regard to Turkey when you're on the ocean, when you're on an ocean cruise. So cruise land tours are extremely popular, and I wanted to kind of talk to you all a little bit about cruise land tours. It's where we do a cruise and we have the land already built in, which is going to be your hotel experience. And I think one of our most popular ones is the Portugal's River of Gold. Portugal's is extremely, really well regarded destination prior to COVID, and it hasn't, it's kind of picked up where it left off. It's probably one of the top five destinations right there, right now, along with Japan, Peru, Iceland, Egypt before, of course, a lot of the conflict that started, and that kind of rounds up your top five. You can also probably kind of kick Australia and New Zealand in there as well. So this is a cruise land tour. It is 10 days, so it's in that kind of sweet spot as far as folks that are looking to take that 8 hour plus flight. We're going to start in Lisbon in a hotel. Again, already built into the itinerary. We have a ton of cruise land tour options here at Viking. I think most notably, this is one of our favorites, where we do some time in a hotel in Lisbon, and then we motor coach you up to Porto, and we do a round trip sailing on the Douro River. So it's a very shallow, narrow river, beautiful terrace vineyards. You're sailing with just under 140 guests. So the ships are built, they're purpose built for the Douro River, and they're going to be a little bit smaller than our 190 capacity ships, like say on the Danube or the Rhine. So you have a smaller vessel navigating this very shallow, narrow, and then just an over-the-top food and wine experience from a standpoint of being very undervalued right now. So if you have an opportunity, I would say Portugal should be definitely on your short list. So we do a cruise line tour there. Opportunity to make it a little bit longer, almost 3 weeks, with some additional time in Madrid if folks wanted to start there. We also can do more time in Lisbon as well. And I know Brandt can send you anywhere in the world, so Barcelona might even be an option if you wanted to do that pre or post the fantastic city of Barcelona. But this is what this looks like. It does technically take you into Salamanca with an included tour and excursion. So you do get to pick up Spain as a magnet for country if you have not been there. But I would certainly recommend that you do something additional if you are able to, time permitting. But this is a wonderful itinerary. Again, undervalued, I think, on the food and wine scene. And it's just beautiful, scenic country, and one of the top five destinations, not just for travel, but also folks that are moving there, right? Expats. All right, Lyon and Provence. Moving to France, lots of things to share and do, and just a spectacular season overall with France. And we'll get to Paris, but we are excited to continue to sail in southern France. This is your Rhone and Saône sailing. This is your over the top food and wine experience, your Gallo-Roman ruins. We can do pre and post in Paris or Nice in the French Riviera. I love this itinerary. It truly is an itinerary where it really feels what we would call a true river cruise experience, where you are waking up in a different city every day and then having the entire day, for the most part, to explore. And again, the Rhone and the Saône, this is your southern France, your Portraits of Southern France type experience. And it is truly one of those experiences where you can kind of land in Paris and do some time in Paris, and then we'll take the TGV down to Lyon, and then sail the 8 days, 7 nights from Lyon to Avignon, and then take you over to Marseille to fly back. I really think you're able to take your brain and turn it off, and you're in great hands on this itinerary. I mean, along with a lot of itineraries with Viking, this is certainly, I think, in the comfort zone for a lot of folks that have been willing to, maybe still, take that flight that's a little bit longer. But what I want to do is, highlight, I think, a date we had here, right? Kendall, we have a date already for, I believe, September of next year, if my memory serves me correctly.
That's
And you can jump in at any point, but it's it's some of the most ideal time to be in Europe, and you all always do a really good job of doing that. It's like you have somebody in the inside telling you, "Hey, we're coming out with the group states tomorrow," and you're right on it, and you jump on some of the most ideal times to be in the specific destinations of the group space that you grab. So it's next September, and already booking nicely. And I think you're going from the Lyon to Avignon direction.
Yes, that is correct.
So, yeah, folks, take a look at that. I know Kendall has the details and some magnificent pricing. I don't think pricing you can touch even when you call us. Um, you won't see that pricing, because it's whatever we're offering plus the group discount, and Kendall has a pretty nice attractive price to go to. Sorry, pretty nice attractive price on this group to go to market with. So, and there's still space left. So take a look at that. This is what the embarkation disembarkation looks like. Your points of your ports of call here. And then, of course, Paris in the heart of Normandy. For those of you that maybe have done southern France or are really looking to take advantage of this itinerary, we do a magnificent job. Round trip, 8 days, 7 nights from Paris. Ample time in Paris. You may have, if you've been watching the Olympics, you've had to have seen our river cruises by now. We are docked typically about 300 to 400 yards away from the Eiffel Tower. I think at this point, with opening ceremony and all that good stuff, we were a little bit further away, but we were still within that 500 to 600 yard range. And all the panoramic shots of that NBC's been doing, you had to have seen our Seine class ships there docked on the Seine. So really proud of this itinerary. We do a magnificent job. We've been celebrating, of course, the big 80th year anniversary this year. That's been going on since March, and will continue through our early sailings of November, which would conclude our Paris and the Heart of Normandy itinerary. So we do spend about a 3/4 day excursion visiting Normandy. So we do the U.S. Military Cemetery, and then Omaha, Golden, Juno, and then of course some of the quaint northern France towns, and really get a great look at why some of the Dutch masters came to this part of France to be influenced. So and also lived. So you can't go wrong with Paris and Normandy. If the days that are already built in the itinerary are not enough Paris time for you, you can certainly add additional days in Paris, pre or post. And this is what the embarkation disembarkation looks like. And this is, I mean, this is a true shot of how close we are to being in the heart of Paris there with the Eiffel Tower, and being kind of in that triangle of the must see and do and eat in Paris. All right, so I didn't want to shy away from the now conversation. We have yet to cancel on now cruises. We have put on pause, of course. The pre-extension that we typically offer is Jerusalem and Israel, so that has been put on pause for the foreseeable future as of right now. Don't have a date when that may come back, but no now cruises have been canceled. There still is a cruise land tour, fully guided with an Egyptologist. That Egyptologist is with you from the moment you land in Cairo until we put you back in the hotel there in Cairo and you fly out. So it is a cruise land tour. You do Cairo by hotel, and then we're going to do some intra-Egypt air, and then sail all the way down into Aswan. So You also have an opportunity to extend in Jordan as a post extension. And there are some dates that we're offering from a pre-extension standpoint. You can do Istanbul. So um, any questions, concerns, definitely put them in the chat box. We are still sailing in the Nile. We have a great presence there. We'll have about 5 ships there on the Nile. And like I said before the pandemic, folks, it was probably number 2 or 3 as far as most popular destinations. And it came roaring back after we came out of COVID. The only thing that's kind of put a little bit of a damper on it is, of course, the conflict that's going on, uh, in a neighboring area. So with
And
Palestine
and
and
Eric, just
Israel. So
just for to add in a little bit, we've had several clients that sailed the Egypt itinerary this year, had rave reviews. And so anyone that is considering that, do reach out to our team because we'd be glad to share those comments and highlights of their trips.
yeah, no, we've done some shows this year, of course, right? We're no strangers to some of these consumer cruise events that we've put together, right? And we just, I mean, I've heard it from your folks, I've heard it from other folks around the country, and those that have sailed on the Nile recently um, are quite happy with the lower, I guess, amount of tourism that's there. I mean, they've felt that it's been safe, secure from that standpoint. That we, as a supplier, have done an amazing job. But I don't think anything has really changed along the Nile. There's additional, of course, heightened security and alert and tourism police. But I think from an overall standpoint, as far as what we've been delivering since we've ever sailed on the Nile, it's only got better now that we've built out our own brand new ships. So take a closer look. If it's been on your bucket list, I would highly recommend it. But yeah, to your point, Kendall, we've had nothing but outstanding reviews. I mean, just A++s across the board, and it's just one of those, it's one of those bucket list items for many. All right, shifting gears to ocean for you folks that are, never been on an ocean cruise, maybe never been on a cruise ever. I think, with river cruising, it's a good introduction to cruising. If you've never wanted to consider ocean cruising because of maybe motion or seasickness, um, that's not going to be the case with river. With ocean, of course, you're just under 1,000 guests, so we're still in that small ship classification, and we're on 5 of the great oceans of the world, and kind of sailing everywhere from the Baltic to Australia and New Zealand. So we're all the way down in the Oceania area. We're Southeast Asia. We're in Europe. We're here in the U.S., sailing in the Inside Passage of Alaska and all over the Western Hemisphere as well. So these are award-winning ocean ships, very much the same decor that you would come to expect from Viking. It's a Scandinavian decor with a touch of Norwegian folkloric decor. Just clean spaces throughout, as far as understated elegance, natural colors throughout, floor to ceiling glass window panes. I've been making this joke recently. For those of you that don't want to be a Walmart greeter in your retirements, we actually hire folks from the demographic that we speak to just sit in furniture and make sure it's comfortable. So pretty neat job. And that's with Rotet Studio. So I can tell you that your peers have said that the furniture on Viking is very comfortable and usable. So, um, and all jokes aside, it's hard to go through these images and not bring things to life. So I just kind of want to make you guys aware, or you all aware that it's really what we do at Viking, right? It's the consistency of the ability to deliver a home away from home, even though you're not. We feel that the destination is truly the destination, and the ship is just merely the vehicle to get you there. You want to be comfortable, and you want it to be you want to be accustomed or know what you're getting into, I should say. So this is your Explorers Lounge. It very much is a 2-story glass encased experience. This is your piano bar type atmosphere in the evening. This is kind of your cocktail prior to dinner, or maybe your cocktail or two after dinner. But it does become a piano bar type atmosphere. It is 2 stories, kind of tucked away up top. Is a little quiet space. Great place to kind of have a drink or read a book and say hello or goodbye to that destination you are docked in. And then the Winter Garden. I always love to feature the Winter Garden. I've been getting a lot of questions about this one, Kendall. A lot of folks thought like it costs additional money to go to the Winter Garden or experience the Winter
Oh,
Garden. No, 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 not at all. It's kind of on my next image, you'll see how it's kind of encased, and people think like you can't. Folks have thought like you can't go in there unless you've paid additional money. But so the Winter Garden, folks, is it's kind of a room that's a square room, and it's your Norwegian tree of life here. It's one of the most beautifully designed rooms, I think, on any ocean ship. And what we do here is we do a formal tea time on a daily basis. So we have our resident chamber music that plays in here at 3 p.m. every day. We have a tea sommelier that can go over all the teas of the world with you. We have your tea offerings, and then also your finger sandwiches and your beautifully your beautifully put together fresh scones as well. And yeah, it's already included. There's nothing additional to pay to experience this. You can also access the Winter Garden when tea time's not happening. I've got that a lot as well. And I think you'll see that with yeah, it's funny, but you'll see with my next shot. So off the main pool, those doors are typically closed just because, it's supposed to be a little bit of a more quiet area. And then even these, you can barely see it on this shot, but if you're walking towards the Winter Garden, you'll walk by it in those side corridors. If you see that, just the side of the Winter Garden. So I guess it feels isolated, but not, and people can see into it. And they thought that it cost additional money to go in there. But as you can see here with the main pool, so access to any of the areas on board are not additional with Viking. So you can access the main pool, the Winter Garden, the gym, the sauna, and use the dry sauna, um, the hydrotherapy whirlpools, the pools. None of that is additional. I mean, the only time you're looking at additional stuff is if you go and get your hair and nails done, or you want a massage or some sort of treatment in the spa. So, our spas are Live Nordic. They are there to provide the service that you are asking for. They're not there to then, after your relaxing massage, turn around and try to sell you this fountain of youth, oil or cream or anything that, so there's no add-ons or additional, upselling that goes on after your service that is concluded. So
and
rest assured,
a side note on that Winter Garden, our group that sailed to the British Isles in June, they had the Brandt Travel cocktail party hosted in the beautiful Winter Garden, and they had harpist playing and just had a fabulous experience in there. So it is definitely a gorgeous venue.
yeah, I guess that's the only time it would be, I don't know if they close it. I guess depends on how large the group was, but typically, that would maybe the only time that you can access the Winter Garden if there's a private 1 hour or 1 hour and a half cocktail hour going on for a larger group. But that's one of the advantages of sailing with you all, right? I mean, you put these together, you work towards
Absolutely.
group amenities, and you know we do our best to facilitate those in areas that are going to be feasible. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the Winter Garden, it's not additional. This main pool can be retracted. Those doors can be as well, but folks kind of separate themselves from the main pool in the Winter Garden. It's a great place to read a book, curl up, catch up on your news if you'd like. As Wi-Fi is included on the ocean program and river and expedition. So, Wi-Fi is nothing additional that you'll pay for with Viking. So there's about on ocean, especially, there's about almost $400 of value built in per day, per couple into the additionals, right? With your wine, beer, and soft drinks included at lunch and dinner, your bottled water replenished daily in your stateroom, as well as offered to on your tours and excursions, your Wi Fi already built in. There's no specialty restaurant fee or reservation fee or anything like that, or anything additional to dine in those specialty restaurants. We're calling them alternative restaurants now, I hear, because again, it's not better food than the main restaurant. It's just a different experience. So I guess we've been told to use the word alternative. So let's make sure that's on the recording there, Kendall. But yeah, look, and that's exactly what they are, right? It's Manfredi's. So that's our play on an Italian grill. So it's an alternative to what's in the main restaurant or even the World Cafe. And then the chef's table is a 100% paired meal, anywhere from 5 to 9 wines. And yeah, it's an alternative experience for those folks that are looking for a food culinary experience um, from the chef, and then also the sommelier that's in that chef's table. So anyway, so it's an all veranda ship, and it's the fine art detail that really makes these ships special. All the nuances that Viking loves to internally have heated discussions about. But yeah, it's very much your cabin is going to feel a lot like home away from home, right? So I'll show you my favorite one. I know we're kind of running, close on the time, but I want to show you my favorite cabin. Stateroom is my penthouse junior suite. It's not a true two-room suite. So you have one owner suite that's about almost 1,600 square feet on the vessels, and then you have um, a handful of Explorer suites. Those are all true two-room suites. Penthouse Junior Suite you can divide it up manually here with more room for entertainment for four. You still have the true two-room, sorry, the true veranda, sit-down veranda for two, and then you have your double vanity or double sink bathroom. So keep in mind, with Viking, we just want to kind of make it clear or make sure that everyone understands kind of the different cabin categories. I think that some things have been lost in translation with regard to the configurations. There's only about 5 different cabin configurations on the ocean vessels, and that's the same thing with river as well. And there's about 7 on river as far as different price points, and about 9, potentially 10 different price points on ocean. So I will let Kendall and her team kind of point the differences out for you. But the cabin configurations don't really change more than about 5 or 6 times per ocean. It just depends on what time you get to board the ship, how far out can you make your tour and excursion reservations and confirmations. How many guaranteed reservations will you have in an alternative restaurant? I almost called it specialty restaurant again, but yes. So those nuances really Brandt Travel's spectacular at, and really points you in the right direction based on how you want to experience your cruise. Some of my more popular destinations right now with ocean is the 2-week experience there in Australia and New Zealand. And then happy to announce that we're getting a lot of airlift, not just out of Texas, but some major gateways that are going direct into Sydney, which is nice. You don't have to change planes typically. Um, but this is a jam packed, so much value on this itinerary. I can't express that enough. If you've ever looked at Australia and New Zealand on your own, trying to go from place to place, even doing sort of a land motor coach experience, you're just not going to fulfill what you see here on this page. The ports of call, the amount of area you're covering, what you're going to see. This can quickly also become a 3.5 week experience with more time with our pre and post opportunities in either country, both North and South Island and New Zealand as well. And that flight, I mean, between Sydney and Auckland is not close either. I mean, that's like LA to New York. So you do cover a lot of ground, you see a lot, and you certainly do want to consider maybe even doing a pre and post opportunity with regard to Australia and New Zealand. But it's one of those hot destinations. I could see us having a ship in Sydney, maybe even year round. So another one of those jam-packed itineraries with value is the British Isles Explorer. And as you mentioned, you did have folks that sailed on this, and I heard nothing but great feedback, Kendall, from this itinerary. There's just so much to see and do in in these countries, and we do our very best to kind of put a ton of value and give you the highlights of the UK, of Ireland, and also Scotland, with additional time offered in London as well as in Bergen and Oslo, with that wonderful train ride from Bergen to Oslo in Norway. But this is, again, jam packed with value, can easily become 3 weeks, plus if you do some pre and post opportunities. But you are seeing, just with the cruise, 15 days, 14 nights, and really navigating some really hard to get to places if you're doing your own self drive or checking in and out of hotels and doing land motor coach experiences. It's just not you might need another vacation or two to recover if you do that on your own. And just the planning that would go into that, that might even tire you out on its own, right? So, and finally, the Mediterranean Odyssey. We have, I know we have a lot of folks that have done the Mad and the Mediterranean, but and maybe we've done an 8 day, 7 night variation of this. But this is one of my favorite 13-day experiences. We go from Venice to Barcelona or Barcelona to Venice, and we do have the ability to kind of explore that beautiful Croatian coastline, which is outstanding. Going down the Adriatic Sea into the Ionian Sea, Messina Strait. This is just a fantastic itinerary. You had one you wanted to highlight. I believe it was the Greek Odyssey.
Yes,
Which one was it? Yeah.
we just announced one of our new sailings, and it's for 2026. I know that seems far out to some, but I will tell you, with these smaller ship experiences, making sure that you have the best availability to you, you want to book it as soon as possible. So our date is April the 11th, and it's round trip Athens. So you get to really see Greece in depth with those included excursions and the Viking way. So it is really a great itinerary back in 2026.
Expeditions, right? Just under 400 guests, and we are sailing some of the roughest waters in all of the world. But these ships were built with the finesse to be able to even sail here on the Great Lakes, closer to home, so just north of most of us. Everything from New York to Milwaukee on those 5 Great Lakes. So she gets all the way through the St. Lawrence River, through the Welland Canal, and can get on all 5 Great Lakes. So very, very cool stuff. We sail in the Arctic and Antarctica. And then also, as I mentioned, everything from Santiago, Chile, all the way down and around, all the way back up to Milwaukee. So don't say that too fast. Canadian Discovery, probably our most popular, almost 2 week experience. This is your New York to Toronto 13-day itinerary. So again, up and around the Halifax, Nova Scotia area, into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, through the St. Lawrence River, and into Lake Ontario, and able to spend some time in Toronto, pre or post, as well as maybe catch a show there in New York. And then coming out of that is probably our most popular 8 day, 7 night Niagara and the Great Lakes, where you get out of Toronto through the Welland Canal, experience that Niagara Falls experience by sailing through the canal. It's tight. Don't get me wrong. For those of you that have already done this, you'll tell me that there's very little room on either side. I think 6 to 8 inches on either side, which is pretty tough. It's a slow go process. It's very much like a smaller version of your canal down in they are Polar Class 6 ships built with the latest greatest technology, and then again just small enough to be able to still get into some of the most interesting parts of these destinations. Ton of promotions going on right now with our anniversary sale. So, and those apply specific to, certain sailings. And again, I will leave that to Brandt to kind of decipher what, what makes sense for you all based on where you want to sail and when you want to sail. But are there any questions that I can answer from a chat perspective? So I got a comment: just completed the Grand European Tour from Budapest to Amsterdam.
Well, and Viking does a fantastic job, and you shared so much information. We have obviously you have a lot of different destinations and travel styles, from the river to the expedition and the ocean. But all of the guests that we have that travel with Viking always have wonderful things to say about their experience and create memories of a lifetime. And that's really what it's all about. Getting out there, seeing the world. And, to your point you made earlier, when folks decide to take those international flights, nobody loves them. The airlines are all our nemesis. It's the worst thing we have to deal with in travel in terms of being flexible and all of that. But once you get to where you're going, Viking takes care of you from the second you land. And to the second you go home. I mean, walking into the airport and getting you checked into your flight back home. People can't say enough about the service, the quality, and the experiences along the way. And so that's why we continue to partner so strongly with you and recommend Viking to our guests. Whether you've tried them before and you're hooked or you've never tried them yet, it's definitely worth it. And we say that time and time again. So we do have a lot of specials. They are available on the website. If you click special offers, you can see all of the Viking itineraries with those specific dates that feature really great rates. But if those dates don't work for you, we can absolutely put you on anything at any time. And, as Eric mentioned, you get a million brochures. We know this. You also get a lot of emails and a lot of special codes. We have access to all of that and then some. So there is never a reason to feel that you should call into Viking directly and talk to any old person. Talk to our team, the people who know you, want to develop those travel relationships with you. We're very well skilled in all things Viking, and we will take care of all those parts and pieces for you along the way with no extra fees. So if you're encouraged to book something between now and 2026, we would encourage you to do it. Like Eric said, it's that 25th anniversary sale that's going on. We have promotions all over the board. We'd be glad to take care of that for you. If you mention today or sometime in the next week, I Love Viking, we'll know you attended the event and you will be entitled to a $300 onboard credit for any itinerary that you book. And that would be for new bookings. But $300, just mention I Love Viking and we will get you all set up. So again, thank you, Eric, so much for joining us today and giving everyone so much information. We appreciate you and hope you enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye for now.